Hey, welcome back to Real Takes, where we are all movie love all the time. Tonight, we're going to start the way we always do, talking about an organization that that I care about. Meatball's been hanging around for hours, and now suddenly he walks away when I was going to talk about our local no-kill animal shelter called CASAS, the Carrie A. Seaman's Animal Shelter, that is a no-kill shelter. That I support and love and hope you can support and love, or maybe you have a local no-kill shelter that you can support and love. I thought Meatball was going to help plug the shelter, but he had other ideas. Anyway, we still love Meatball. We still love no-kill shelters. Please support your local no-kill shelter. I will put a link to our local no-kill shelter below. If you don't have one, you know about and would like to support one. Thanks. So tonight, we are talking about the film Pain and Glory, written and directed by Libra Pedro Almodovar, and starring Antonio Banderas, Penelope Cruz, Leonardo Sbaraglia, and I'm not going to say this very well, Asier Exciendia. I hope I'm saying that at least half okay. So Pain and Glory came out in 2019. I was so moved by it. It's the most autobiographical film that Pedro Almodovar has put out. It's about a film director who is in so much physical pain that he can't work. And because he can't work, he's sort of left with himself and his memories, and he starts revisiting times with his mother from the past in his mind, and then in his present life, kind of thinking through old relationships that come back around and come in. So Pedro Almodovar, of course, has a long respected career in filmmaking. He came up, coming in here because I want to sort of approach this from a different angle. In one interview, Pedro Almodovar said that he was born in a small village in Spain, and his parents, he was born in 1949, and basically he said his parents may as well have been from the 19th century in terms of their understanding, their mentality, just the product of living in and growing up in a small village at that time. And he said he was basically a 21st century child. And so there was this huge gap between him and his parents from a very young age, and he was never going to live in village life. And I that was such an interesting image to me because, first of all, one of the things Almodovar is known for is that he is a unique world builder in cinema. He has his own particular sensibility that he brings to every film he makes, regardless of the subject or the time it's made in, that creates its own space and time. And so to hear him talk about his own origins and how out of time he felt with his surroundings is fascinating. And then also there is this way that he, a lot of his work, especially his early work, but a lot of his work has a sense of like worlds colliding in it. Not necessarily in terms of period. I'm not speaking literally, but sort of metaphorically or energetically, like different energies coming together and the chaos that can create and how we as humans work through that chaos. I just found that one image about his childhood really revealing. So he did make it out of small village life, and he went to Madrid and sort of came of age as an artist and a filmmaker during the 70s in an exciting counterculture time in Madrid in the wake of, or as a reaction to the death of fascist dictator Franco, who had repressed the arts for decades. So there was this huge explosion of art and culture and decadence and sexuality and rebellion that happened in Madrid, and he was at the center of that and very much a part of that, and was making short films and then started making feature films that were in the beginning almost absurdist in their plots and in their character choices. I mean, one film had a nymphomaniac, a gay Islamic terrorist, the son of an emperor, and the daughter of a dry cleaner crashing together in their lives and interacting and having relationships. And so these, one person used the phrase camp melodramas. Another person said rude and boisterous. I wouldn't put that kind of judgment on it, but, very pointed looks at sexuality, at culture, farces that called out issues of the day that were being explored. And then he really solidified his reputation as a filmmaker on the international stage when he made Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown in the late 80s. And from then, he's been steadily making films his whole life. And he says that, he doesn't really know who he is without filmmaking. He actually referred to it as an addiction. So, and he's gone through sort of phases in his filmmaking that we'll get into in a little bit. And he has a long working relationship with Antonio Banderas and with Penelope Cruz. They've each made more than 5 films with him. And Antonio Banderas was in some of his earliest films. And then he went off to Hollywood and they didn't work together for a while, but they've remained friends for 40 years and made films together intermittently. And it's interesting, Antonio Banderas has said that when Pedro Almodovar sent him the script, he was so moved by it because even though they've been close friends for 40 years, he said that Almodovar is a very private person and he's never tried to trespass on his privacy or push the boundaries of his privacy in any way. So he was learning things about Almodovar that he'd never known through reading the script, his feelings, his experiences, and was very moved to be offered this part. And Penelope Cruz plays Almodovar's mother. They're not really flashbacks. They're more like memories. They don't operate like flashbacks in the film. I would say they operate more like we're going into Almodovar's mind and his memories. And Penelope Cruz said she was really proud to play his mother because she had met his mother and she loved his mother. And it was clear that her mother was just a totally unique person. And Almodovar was raised by a lot of very strong women and is known for the fact that strong, eccentric women are a huge part of his filmmaking. So she felt really privileged and excited to be playing his mother. And where am I going with this? So there's so much to say about this film. I was so deeply moved by it. And, again, Almodovar started out with these kind of comedic, extreme dramas, comedy dramas. But in the last 10 to 15 years, he's been kind of shifting his style. And this is just a very quiet, honest, vulnerable film about an artist at a certain moment in his life where everything's being questioned because he can't do the thing he most loves to do. So in researching for you guys, I learned so many interesting things. First of all, Almodovar is very committed to rehearsing, and Antonio Banderas said they had a month of rehearsal for this film. And I just can't tell you, in Hollywood now, that's unheard of. Like, it is just very, very rare that a film has a month-long rehearsal process. You hear all about, like, the action films and the 6-month training process, like physical training processes. But they had a month of rehearsal, and Antonio Banderas said they all just jumped into the mind of the film. And he says he felt like the making of the film for him was about getting rid of tools and elements that he learned over the years to create something from scratch. And you really feel that because there's so much maturity in this film. You know, it's about someone later in life looking back on different relationships in their life, and yet there's something very clean and simple about it. It's not weighted down. It doesn't feel like, oh, it's about the weight of history and grief and what went wrong. It feels there's an innocence to it and a kind of simplicity to it, and almost a lightness to it, even while it's deeply, deeply emotional. It's a really unique energy that the film has. Jumping in here because I forgot to mention this really beautiful thing that Penelope Cruz said about Pedro Almodovar. She said that he represents freedom to her. And I thought that was a moving, profound thing to say about another human being, that they represent freedom. And she said that working with him is like a dream. She said he's very specific and clear about what he sees and what he wants, but he also really listens and wants to hear what the actors think or feel or what their ideas are, and incorporates those into the vision, which is potentially unique. I mean, we hear about directors who have a specific, unique vision who can't incorporate anybody else's ideas. So it's always lovely to hear when an artist has both in the collaboration process. And Antonio Banderas said that he did feel like they were going into a very special place when they were making the film. And so he said there was a moment they were shooting one of the scenes between him and his mother, and during the scene, Pedro Almodovar got really, really emotional while the scene was being shot. And when they called cut and Antonio Banderas looked up at him and saw him, he said that was like the best direction he'd ever gotten from a director ever. And he learned everything he needed to know about what his character would be for the rest of the shoot from that moment of Almodovar, you know, sharing his emotion about his relationship with his mother. So a deeply, deeply personal film, a beautiful film. I feel like a really generous work from an artist about their own struggle with their art and their personal life. And the film did really well. It went to Cannes. Antonio Banderas won Best Actor at Cannes for it. Honestly, I always love Antonio Banderas's work, and I always love Penelope Cruz's work. I just feel that they're beautiful, generous performers. I always learn from them when I'm watching them. And they, you know, this film is no exception. They just shine here beautifully, and it's clear that everybody brought a lot of love to this picture, and you can feel that in the film. And then actually Almodovar's next film after that one would be Parallel Mothers, about the abuses of the Franco regime, and Penelope Cruz stars in that and is heartbreaking. So highly recommend that one as well. But if you've seen Pain and Glory, let me know what you think about it in the comments. Please hit like or subscribe so that YouTube will let you know when new videos are out, and I will see you next Wednesday. Thanks for watching Real Takes. Hit the subscribe button below so the algorithms will tell you when new episodes are out. And if you want to support Real Takes, please visit my Patreon page, where you can join at any tier from $2 to $100 per thing I make. The $15 tier is specifically about supporting Real Takes, and you'll get behind the scenes information and be thanked in future videos. See you next Wednesday.